would you look at where I have found myself? So I tried to come here like 3 years ago. This is the Manhattan Classic Car Club pick. This is exciting. So when I first walked in, I was surprised that I saw like a handful of KTMs. KTMs are a pretty radical bike out of Austria. One of my older brothers had or still has a KTM, but he doesn't drive it as much. And they're pretty radical. But you really don't, I mean, at least in Texas, you don't see them as frequently. And then, right off the gate, we have one of the brand new Corvettes. Now, I just recently had posted about the 1986 Corvette Indy concept, which had a mid-engine in it, all right? Which was Zora's initial plan. He always wanted the mid-engine, so it's kind of exciting that finally we have a mid-engine Corvette in production. Then we have this beautiful 1965 Pontiac Lemans, and over here, Miata, which they never really get as much credit as they deserve, all right? Now, the inspiration, the whole motto for the design team when they were coming up with the Miata was Jinba Itai. Whether I'm butchering that pronunciation, probably likely. But what that means is horse and rider as one. I'm gonna be honest, they nailed it, because the Miata, and Miata, the word, you think that you'd be surprised by the actual origins of the word Miata. It's like Gaelic or something. It's some kind of old terminology. But the Miata is one of the funnest cars you can drive. It's like, and it's not a surprise that it has been like, there's some kind of, it's either, I forget from the video I did on the history of the Miata, but it's like best-selling two-seater sports car repeatedly, like ever. And if you drive one, you'll understand why. This video is going to do it any justice, but this color, and I've never seen this color on the McLaren before, it's so pretty. It really is. It's pretty glorious. And then add lightness. That was Colin Chapman, founder of Lotus's entire thought process when he was creating a car. Lotus still holds true to that motto, thankfully, that's for sure. Now, I can't help but think, whenever I think about Colin Chapman, did he actually fake his death or not? There was that whole scandal when he got involved with John DeLorean about whether or not he ran off to a beach, faked his death. I'd really like to think that he ran off to a beach, sipping margaritas, talking all cute and British like. But we have a really lovely Evora right behind me, which I haven't been able to drive one of these before, and it's kind of sad. I'd like to change that. If anybody who lives in Texas and has a Evora, well, let me know. I did get to drive in a Spree, which was pretty special. We have a lot of Sprees go through our mechanic shop from time to time. That's pretty cool. The designer of this Spree is it's so hard to say his name. Giorgetto Gugaro, all right? And he was a pretty darn prolific designer. And I digress. can't help it. I'm a sucker. So I grew up riding on the back of my dad's BMW HP2 Enduro. So I'm just a sucker for any BMW motorcycle that has a boxer engine in it. And these are a lot. So I know that they rent. I'm gonna have to ask somebody that's walking around here some questions. So I know that a lot of these cars, the members get to drive them, but these have to be personal, and they're just storing them, right? Look at all this. This reminds me a lot of my motorcycle suit back at home. Pretty cool. Know the story of the Cobra by now, right? Okay, Carroll Shelby had a Ford engine he needed to put something in. He found the Ace Bristol, all right? Worked up a good deal, made it a little more of an aggressive car, but that was the start of the Cobra, which is beloved. I remember reading in a book that they called the Cobra romantically aggressive, and I steal that all the time. There are some cars that are genuinely both romantic and aggressive. And this Cobra is one. So naturally, this is a kit, and I don't know what they have underneath the engine. Maybe I can ask somebody around here. I haven't seen anybody really. But our Cobra, our Mark IV continuation Cobra, is a very interesting story. I always like to tell it. So continuation, what that means, it was the same bucks and dies that the original Cobra was using, but a gentleman named Brian Inglis, who's really renowned for his good work, and he also pissed off Carroll Shelby for doing this. He actually was able to purchase the name rights of AC from the family and use them. And so it kind of gets a little bit confusing between kits and continuations and stuff, but this is a very pretty example. All right, so one time we took our Mark IV to a car show, and I kid you not, some grown man came up, leaned on this to get under and look underneath the car. Do not touch other people's cars. Did I yell at him? Yes. Did I enjoy it? Extremely. The 60s, yes. Beautiful 1963 Corvette. Back before we went through the 70s gas crisis and before we ruined all the fun with safety and emissions rules. So one interesting bit that I forgot to say about the Miata is that when they were also designing the Miata, you know what they pulled in? An MGB. They tore apart an MGB and reconstructed it, the entire design team, while they were creating the first generation Miata. Yes, love it, digging it. So the interesting thing about this, so this is the Ferrari 328 GTS. It's powered by a 3.2 V8, 3.2 liter V8. Now, whenever I see a Ferrari with anything under a V10 or a V12, it reminds me of Alfredo Dino Ferrari, all right? Now, that was Enzo Ferrari's first son, legitimate son. Did he have a mistress and another son? Yes, but that's another story. But Alfredo Dino Ferrari was the first to start working on smaller engines, a V6 and a V8, all right? And that would go on to be in the Dinos that were kind of a short-lived little other part of Ferrari. Now, Alfredo sadly passed away, I believe, due to MS, a little too soon. I always like to think about what if Dino had survived and where that would have led Ferrari in the future. But pretty much he was forward thinking, all right, because that is where Ferrari went. They ended up with the smaller engines. had a very, very nice gentleman named Eric answer all of my questions. So there's different levels of membership, all right? You have the club membership and you have the drive membership. And there's different packages, all right? And you're depending on your level of package, you have access to all of these cars, you see? Now the motorcycles, just like I thought, those are actually individually owned. I don't know, you might, most of them are individually owned. You might have access to them, I'm not sure, but boy, if I lived in New York and I had that big of a wallet, you'd catch me here all the time. Well, I hope you had fun. And if you're in New York and you want to take a nice little trip into here, it's free. You can take a look at it. Hours are somewhere like 9 to 1:30 or so. And then after that, they close up for the private members. And you should definitely take a trip. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.